Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Welcome back to the show. Y'all, I'm so excited for our guest. I feel like I say that every time, but I am like so excited for you to hear from Laura and a little bit of background on how we met and kind of a little bit background on her. So about a year ago now, and I think this is right, Laura, I was like searching through Instagram for someone to help me with my Instagram. And I was like searching through hashtags and her name kept popping up. And I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out to her to see if maybe she can kind of help give me some guidance on just like getting organized with social media. And we hopped on a call, and when we got to talking, she ended up like saying that she was vegan. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, done deal. Here's all my money. Let's work together. It wasn't a second thought. And so she's going to talk more about how she transitioned to becoming vegan and how her and her partner, how he is not vegan. So we're going to touch base on that. And she actually used Veganuary to kind of help facilitate this transition to veganism. So if you've been thinking about going vegan, and if you've heard about Veganuary, because it's coming up here in a little bit, you'll understand whether or not this is the right move for you. So welcome to the show, Laura. I'm so excited you're here.
Thanks. Yeah, it's so nice to be here. It's so exciting. When you asked, I just thought yes, because I just don't talk about my like vegan story or much about it at all. I don't know why. I suppose I'm not surrounded by very many other plant-based or vegan people, so I never feel like, I don't know, I'm never drawn to really talk about it. So it's so nice to have a space to actually share it. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely a nice surprise for me when we hopped on our call, because it's not very obvious on your social media, which it's in the show notes and we'll talk about it at the end, but it's not obvious that you're vegan. So when you mentioned it, I was like, oh my goodness, it was a match made in heaven, I thought.
Yeah. And I was so excited because I thought, oh yeah, I know, like I can do this. Like I'm very aware of, I've done so much research. So helping you with your Instagram just felt so aligned. It was great. Like obviously I love Instagram, but then also doing it on something that I'm really passionate about was just, yeah, perfect.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So for those of you listening, if you're also wanting to get a little organized with your social media, I definitely would recommend hopping over to the Pocket VA and checking Laura out, because she is always putting out some really great tips when it comes to social media. All right, Laura. So take us back to, I know it was several years ago now, and Laura also lives in the UK. Yeah. Just take us back to a few years ago and kind of what drew you to maybe trying out Veganuary and how it went.
It's really interesting because it was, nearly 4 years ago. It's so hard to know what was that real thing that like really caught my attention. But what I really remember is I was going to the gym a lot and I was eating the same foods all the time, just having chicken and rice. And you know what people have when they go to the gym. So always that. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be something. There's got to be other things I can do. This is just and I like habit. I do like to have the same food. It's not that I like loads of variety all the time. I'm quite a creature of habit when it comes to food. But yeah, it did just feel like, oh, something else, please. And also I was a sustainability consultant at that time. So this is before I started the Pocket VA. This is before I was doing any Instagram stuff. So the environment has always sort of been there for me. And so actually I think the initial reason for looking at Veganuary was from a sustainability point of view, so the environment, and from sort of like a health one in terms of varying my food. So then I thought, oh well, and it was funny, I think it was like on Christmas Day I was talking about it, or even like New Year's Eve or something, and I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I was telling my family, I was like, no, I'm going to do it. Because even at that time it wasn't huge over here. I would say it was probably maybe the second year of Veganuary, maybe. So it wasn't all over the place, but I thought actually Veganuary would be a really good time because there are people getting a lot more involved. So other restaurants get involved, like supermarkets have other things on offer for Veganuary. So I just thought, well, if I am thinking about it, and this is why it's great for other people, is it definitely feels a lot easier in that month. And then from then you have much more of an idea yourself because you've had that month of kind of extra support through Veganuary. So I thought, well, I'll try it, and I actually joined this Facebook group, and I think it was for a vegan protein powder. And I was like, they mentioned Veganuary, and I think it all sort of came from that. It was nice to have a supportive group. So again, if you are starting Veganuary or any sort of plant-based, it's great to be in a group because there are so many questions that you need the answers to when you start. So that's something that I would really suggest trying to find. I know Ashley has a fab one, but yeah, definitely having that supportive community is so important when you start. I started going through the months, and my energy levels was the big thing I noticed, and I felt a lot clearer. And I also suffered with headaches a lot growing up, and actually they've definitely, since being vegan plant-based, I have way fewer headaches. So that's something else that's really interesting. I know that obviously I drank more water and I started working out, which helped, but definitely this diet has also massively helped. And then it got to the end of Veganuary, so it was January, and I was like, no, I don't want to buy that. I don't want to buy that chicken, or I don't want to buy those eggs. But it wasn't okay. I'm vegan forever now. It was like, well, I'm not bothered for it at the moment, so I'll just carry on. We'll just see. We'll just keep going, and we're still keeping going now. So it was lovely, actually. When I think back, it was so nice because I clearly didn't have this like, I really want to do it, and I had this sort of, I was forcing it. Is for the first time ever, I feel like, with my relationship with food, is I didn't feel like there was this constant, there was this battle. It was such an easy decision. It wasn't even a decision. It just happened. And so, yeah, I mean, I would recommend Veganuary to anybody, not that, for anything that will make you to a vegan, but just, it's so eye-opening. And yeah, and there's so many other options now. I mean, 4 years later, it's just brilliant now.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, that was really long.
Well, like you said, like you went from really having a pretty, like, almost like a narrow way of eating, like rice, chicken. That was a big part of your diet. And like you said,
super, super meat orientated. Like I'd have meat all the time. I had salmon all the time. I had eggs for breakfast. Like I had everything but vegan was literally my diet. So it was so different, but so bizarre that just in a month, so funny that in just that space of time. But
yeah, that's wild. And like you said, like your eyes were open to like all these other things that you could eat. And so, yeah, your plate kind of goes looking like one way. And now you're like, wow, like there's so much more that I can eat now.
Yeah.
And then too, with that, like when you surround yourself with other people who are doing something similar and are passionate about it as well, like Veganuary, which can be a really fun experience, especially if you're hesitant and new, and maybe you want to be part of a really large group or really large movement of people that are doing it, it can be a really great option for you.
Yeah, it was really fun, and it was really lovely to just, people were posting their like meals of that day. And obviously I don't suggest that everybody shares all of their meals of the day, because I don't think that's necessary. Like, that can be counterproductive, but it was just nice for inspiration. It was just nice to see people getting on board and just seeing, it just gave you inspiration yourself during the month if you were feeling like, oh, actually I'm not quite sure today, and then you saw what somebody else had and you're like, oh yeah, that's a really nice idea. So, because especially I don't have that in real life, so if you are somebody who would really like to try it, but you know that there's a lot of people around you who are not interested in it, then you definitely need that sort of online community to help you.
Yep. Yeah. So speaking of people who might not be as interested in going plant-based or vegan, I know that, so when obviously you've been doing this for almost 4 years now, like you said, and Adam, your partner, he isn't so interested, and I don't think he has any intentions, right, to go plant-based or vegan.
Like, I think found it really hard when I said, actually, I don't think I'm going to have meat again, because it really does change so many things that you did together as in a relationship. I didn't try his food anymore, and he's got a nut allergy, so lots of vegan stuff, plant-based stuff, a lot of them have nuts in, so it ends up being, you miss that. So that part, that's one small element, but that's something you notice. And it really depends sort of how strict you are. This varies with different people, but I am still willing, like I will still cook his food and my food, because ultimately for me, I would never tell somebody to do something. And I became plant-based vegan after being with him. So then I can't, in my view, I couldn't really turn around and then be like, I'm this now, so I'm not cooking your food anymore, because I just think that's not fair on him. Just because I've made this decision, he shouldn't be negatively impacted by it. But that was an interesting time. Like, at one point I was like, no, I don't want to cook your bacon. And I thought, actually, it's not quite fair, Laura. So yeah, so that was hard. That going through that bit was difficult, but you definitely get through it. And it's really nice now because we'll have our kind of base food, and if he'll add any extras to his and I'll have mine, and you can still have a lot of the same sort of thing. But something very positive is he doesn't eat meat or chicken or anything, like, not meat or chicken, yeah, he doesn't eat meat or fish during the weeks now. So he will eat some on like Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, but on the other days of the week he won't have any, which for me, I think that's great. And I think that's a really nice thing of this whole movement and this whole shift is it doesn't have to be all in, never again. And the fact that because I'm doing it, it means that he's now having less. I mean, that's a huge positive from it. And it's just nice in the week now because we can eat the same meals together. But yes, I'm pretty certain he will never ever be fully, but that's fine because, like I said, the fact that we can share some of it together is great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's having that mutual respect for one another. And like you said, there's almost this period of time where you sort of like mourn the loss of the fact that like we're not doing these things that maybe we once did together because we're not eating the same way.
Yeah, I think he really noticed that. And I can only compare it to maybe if one of us stopped drinking alcohol. And I know it's a strange comparison. Like, I don't know if it is a strange comparison, but I like to have a glass of wine or a G&T. And if he's turned around and said, I'm not going to drink anymore, I would feel that, that'll be sad to not have those kind of Friday nights where we can have some drinks together. And so I can completely understand that sort of, that's a shame we don't have that as a thing anymore. But I mean, there are so many like amazing other things you can do together.
And with that too, I really liked what you said about like you weren't forced, like he wasn't forcing you to stay, after you did Veganuary, he wasn't forcing you to go back to how you were eating, and vice versa. You weren't necessarily like forcing him to go fully vegan either.
And I think if I was really forcing or in any way kind of guilting him whenever he ate, I just think it would just create a really bad relationship ultimately, because that's not fair. Sometimes I'll consume a lot more vegan and plant-based content online, and then I'll like look at Adam and be like, like, no, Laura.
Yep. It's hard not to have those judgments, even like you said, especially when you get immersed in some of the environmental aspect or the animal welfare aspect. It's hard to not still want to like force your family member or partner to be like, no, this is what you should be doing. Look at what all these things are saying. But at the same time, what we do know is that like, guilting someone or making someone feel bad for their choices isn't helpful or beneficial.
Never going to be the way. Yeah, they'll either never stick to it or they'll resent you in some way. So it's just them doing it on their own accord. You might have helped them along by seeing, the benefits, which is why I think he now has it during the week.
Well, and I can completely understand, obviously, the situation that you're in, because Nick and we talked about this in episode 6, because I transitioned first and was vegan for several years, and then eventually he came on board, and I kind of knew
a couple of years, was it?
It was, yeah, It was definitely a few years, but that mutual respect that you talk about with you and Adam, like that is definitely what got us through. Like I wasn't forcing him or guilting him to be a certain way, and he wasn't doing that either.
When Adam said to me, a couple of months ago, he was like, so I think I'm going to start like not eating meat and fish in the week. And like, I just was like, because just when I first started, he was like, never, I will never. And I don't know whether it was from like just trying to wind me up, but the fact that when he said that, I just thought like I didn't ever ask for him to kind of be fully, but the fact that that's such a huge step. So
yes. Yeah. And I know for a lot of you listening too, you're in the same situation where it's frustrating. I mean, Laura and I can kind of reflect back, and obviously Laura, you're in it right now, but it can be challenging. But like we were talking about, that mutual respect and just trying to be patient and as non-judgmental as possible, as hard as that is, it can be really helpful and kind of just create more peace in the household.
That was smaller things. Adam would just be more conscious of like where the things are coming from, and I think that's always a good place to start. So looking at more local and obviously kind of maybe more organic or that sort of stuff. It's always hard to tell. I know it can be hard to know, but that kind of just helps get it kind of different mindset towards it. It's definitely manageable. So if you think your partner, like what I thought my partner would be like, isn't ever going to be, you can definitely still do it. Like I would still be very happy. We'd both still be very happy now if he was still having it every day. Yes. And there's loads of other things you can share together. It's just food might not be the one.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think kind of the two like main takeaways from here is with you, kind of going back to Veganuary and you trying it, like having that supportive community can really be life-changing, really in anything that you do, but especially if you're wanting to transition to plant-based. I have a group program and it's just to see people come together and do something together that they're all excited about and passionate about and like supporting one another and sharing ideas. And there's just nothing like it. I mean, there really truly isn't. So whether it's a small group that you want to be a part of or a large group like Veganuary, it really can be life-changing.
The other massive thing about being in the group is like managing conversations. So inspiration is great and like kind of ongoing kind of motivation without kind of like forced motivation, just kind of the reminder each day from like what people are sharing and talking about in the group, but actually like having just help with how do you respond to people. So I still get nearly every day like little tiny remarks from my dad and from my mum. Adam is great. He doesn't really, actually he never really has. My brother and just and you just want to just and it's really hard. Like I don't care now. I'm literally like, just don't start with me. But when you first start, it's hard to have the confidence to be able to say, actually, I don't agree with you, or actually, I don't think that's quite right, or for me, or it's not something that I really want to do or support. But to be able to actually say that to somebody who like a loved one is really hard, because it's just that conflict isn't like nice, and often somebody could ask and then they might have they have those little snide remarks about being plant-based or vegan, and just having other people in that you can ask and like hear what they've said or kind of what responses, what can you say, that's so important as well. Because like I said, I had not a single person in my life was vegan or plant-based when I started. It was scary, but it's amazing. Definitely try it, but definitely have your own supportive group and it'll be great.
Yeah. I know a lot of people listening can relate to that because most of them are the only ones transitioning. None of their friends or their family members are doing it. So it can be really challenging, overwhelming. And like you said, just being able to bounce ideas off one another or knowing how to respond to people when they do make comments can be really helpful. Yeah. And then I think with that too, the other like really main takeaway from what you've been talking about is small changes really do add up. And obviously you took a big leap because you went right into Veganuary, but even like you were saying with Adam, like small changes do add up no matter what it is that you're doing. And you never know too, like Laura is just a great example of this. It's like, you never know who's watching or who's listening or who's just maybe lurking around the corner, seeing what you're doing and noticing. Like, you just never know what kind of impact that's going to have on somebody else too.
Yeah. And it's not huge, but like, my mum will have oat milk now, so she won't have other milk. She's mainly vegetarian with a bit of fish, so she's not sort of full meat eater or anything anyway. But just something small like that, I just think, gosh, I never thought she would, because she's a tea drinker and she has had milk all her life. It's such a habit. It's just what everybody has in the UK is tea, and she has oats. So it's really interesting, actually, just like small things that you do, other people pick up on it and want to try it, and it all adds up.
Yep, absolutely. It sure does. Thank you so much for just sharing your journey with us. And we just really appreciate it. So definitely, if anyone wants to reach out, have questions, or even wants to talk Instagram related stuff, where is the best place that they can go to find you?
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been so nice. It's like a weight off my shoulders to just, like you say, be able to talk in an open space about it with people who understand. So I'm on Instagram and I'm at the Pocket VA. That's the best place probably to find me.
Yeah. Definitely go check Laura out. She's got some great content on there and just a lot of great reels and stories and fun things there. So well, thanks for being on the show, Laura. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Until next time, keep thriving.